In this first lesson, we will provide a brief introduction to the key aspects of S/4HANA. After completing this lesson, you will be able to provide an overview of S/4HANA, explain the benefits of S/4HANA, describe the delivery roadmap of S/4HANA, and understand the deployment options for S/4HANA. So here's the scenario. You're in the process of evaluating your IT infrastructure, and based on the best possible choice of deployment. You have choices these days for on-premise, cloud, or a mixture of the two. But you want to remain flexible and assure maximum continuity and support for your mission-critical applications. You also wish to speed up your business processes, reduce the operational costs by taking advantage of the latest technology. So you are investigating speed and also simplification, benefits of in-memory computing. And finally, you want to provide the users with a modern and a simplified user experience that's optimized for all devices. We are living in the age of the digital economy, where digitization of all information and also connectivity of business, consumers, and devices is now the norm. S/4HANA is SAP's next-generation business platform that was developed to specifically support the digital economy. For the last 40 years, SAP have provided business applications that power commerce, and these applications have always been based on the latest technologies of that time. Throughout the 70s and into the 80s, SAP R2 provided mainframe-based business applications that supported business processes but capturing data in real time. At that time, real-time data capture, where the R comes from, was a breakthrough. And then in the early 90s, as we saw the introduction into client-server computing, where the processing was split across 3 tiers to create scalable and affordable solutions, SAP then rewrote the R2 software for this brand new generation of technology, and the new application suite was called R3. But then with the dramatic rise in e-commerce around the year 2000, SAP connected the R3 applications to the web in order to support the development of business-to-business and business-to-consumer scenarios. Also, SAP developed many more additional solutions to extend the capabilities of the core applications, and these became known as new dimensions, BW, CRM, APO, etc. But then around 2004, SAP developed a new architecture still based on the R3 platform, and it was called Service-Oriented Architecture, SOA. SOA allows organizations to rapidly develop new applications based on reusable business functions that could be exposed to the web, exploiting industry-standard web service architecture. The platform on which SOA was based is called NetWeaver. So we renamed the business solution that was powered by NetWeaver, and then SAP Business Suite was the name, and the key component was SAP ERP. And now, here we are, 2015, SAP has completely rewritten the Business Suite yet again from the ground up, and this represents the next generation business application, so that organizations can ensure they are not just able to survive in the fast-moving digital economy, but actually able to exploit and grow their organizations by exploiting all it has to offer. The name of this next generation software is called S/4HANA. S/4HANA is natively built on the SAP HANA platform. By developing the new application suite only for SAP HANA, SAP were free from the constraints of the various databases that we were supporting in the past. SAP specifically exploits now the processing power and extensive capabilities of SAP HANA to revolutionize the business applications. This involved rewriting over 400 million lines of code. This, of course, was a major undertaking for SAP, but it was necessary. SAP could not just keep adding on to existing technology, some of which dates back over 20 years ago. The name S/4HANA comes from SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. The S means suite, but it also means simple. And this represents the way that we can do more with advanced software when we simplify everything. That means the user interface, the data model, the application code. The 4 basically comes from the SAP S/4HANA is only for SAP HANA. The key ingredient of S/4HANA is SAP HANA. SAP HANA is a platform, not a product. Think of SAP HANA as the engine that powers all applications that sit on top of it. SAP HANA was launched in 2011 and initially was used as a standalone appliance in order to collect data and expose that data to reporting tools or any new applications that were built on SAP HANA. At that time, it did not provide the platform for any SAP applications. It is true that SAP HANA was used alongside traditional SAP Business Suite applications in order to power specific functions. We call these accelerators. So, for example, COPA Accelerator. But before too long, SAP HANA was able to completely power entire SAP applications such as SAP BW. And then later, it was able to power the entire business suite. It is important, though, to note at this time, we optimized the code to run better on SAP HANA, but we didn't rewrite the code from scratch. So these applications ran much better, but are not natively built for SAP HANA. In 2014, SAP developed the first natively built application for SAP HANA called Simple Finance. We massively simplified the underlying data model and developed all the code again that was simplified to run on the simplified data model. So we really developed and created a modern finance solution. Simple Finance can sit alongside existing legacy business suite applications such as inventory management, procurement, sales, etc. In 2015, SAP S/4HANA was launched, which added more pieces, a new user experience, guided configuration, more cloud options, as well as more and more innovative applications coming along. So SAP provides a non-disruptive journey towards S/4HANA. Consumers running Business Suite on any database can first migrate the database to SAP HANA and continue to use existing applications but on a modern platform. They immediately see better performance. Next, customers could install the Simple Finance application and move from the legacy SAP Finance to take advantage of real-time financial management and sophisticated decision support. But the next step is to move to Simple Logistics, which will be available later in 2015 for on-premise and is in fact available now for the Cloud Edition. But so SAP have made it possible for customers to get started as soon as they are ready, and as soon as innovations are available, we can begin to deployment, rather than having to have everybody wait until all the pieces are ready and redeveloped. We want to avoid customers having to adopt a disruptive big bang approach, like we had in the R2 to R3 transition. S/4HANA creates unique opportunities not only to run your day-to-day business in real time with industry best practices, but also to reinvent business models and drive new revenues. Reimagine business models, simplicity to connect to people, devices, business networks in real time, to deliver new experiences and value to customers. Internet of Things, big data become accessible to any business. No more complex business collaboration and interactions. Reimagine business decisions. Simplicity to get any data, any insight on any data from anywhere in real time. For planning, execution, prediction, simulations, these are all done now on the fly to drive faster business impact. From an IT value perspective, this means that SAP S/4HANA creates unique opportunities to dramatically simplify the landscape and reduce the total cost of ownership with SAP HANA as the great simplifier. First, enterprises can now significantly reduce their data footprint and work with larger and larger data sets all in one simplified system. To save hardware costs, operational costs and time. But it also means that reducing this data footprints means that we are able to store more and more data on hardware that customers already have, but optimize the storage of that same data. Second, innovation is also made simple with an open platform. So the SAP HANA Cloud Platform will allow us to create additional advanced applications. So for example, predicting, recommending, simulating, but whilst protecting the existing applications. So we have a flexible scenario where we can have customers and partners develop additional applications to build on top of S4HANA. And thirdly, business users can leverage a simple and role-based user experience based on modern design principles, minimizing the training efforts whilst increasing their productivity. And finally, enterprises get a choice of deployment, cloud, on-premise, and even hybrid, to drive easy adoption. With SAP Business Suite now powered by SAP HANA, SAP is simply combining together the best suite of applications, which is the Business Suite, and the next generation of best performing platform for driving your business in real time. This new and unique approach in the market allows your organization to always work on a single source of truth for real-time planning, execution, reporting and analysis on very large volumes of data. So as part of this first wave of innovation, you can take advantage of 22 business value scenarios in finance, sales, marketing, service, manufacturing, and over 400 reports which have been optimized to work with SAP HANA to achieve unprecedented performance. By combining analytics with transactions, business users can now get a unified view of information within context rather than having to go back and forth between applications. New people-centric interfaces based on design thinking have enabled simplified and user-driven experiences. So business users can interact in real time across all data types on any device of their choice. Simple is a common theme across all aspects of S4HANA. And there are three areas that simple applies to: simple user experience, simple business solutions, and also simple data model. Let's look in a little bit of detail at these three areas. First of all, what do we mean by a simplified data model? Traditional applications were built on top of ever increasingly complex data models. Huge numbers of individual database tables were used to store huge amounts of data. And these tables were necessary to provide the data at all levels of detail required by the business users. So there were tables for line level, item detail, and then additional tables to store the totals and aggregations for perhaps reporting users. But technology could not cope with complex high-volume calculations on the fly. So we started to pre-calculate and pre-summarize all the data in our aggregate tables. We also created huge numbers of database indexes to provide optimal paths to access the data. And after all that complexity in the data model, we then wrote code on the complex data model, so this meant the code was therefore complex. In studies, it has been found that the majority of traditional code is there simply to support system performance and does not directly deal with business tasks and issues. The S4HANA data model is simplified, which means that we can lose the complexity of the data model. That means losing tables, removing indexes, and removing aggregations. This slide shows how many tables will be needed to be touched when performing a very simple financial posting in the classic SAP Finance applications, and also in the newly written Simple Finance application. You can see that with SAP Finance, the classic application, a simple posting would touch 15 tables. That's 10 tables for insertion and 5 tables that need to be updated. By removing a huge number of these tables and simplifying the data model and redesigning the remaining tables, SAP Simple Finance needs to touch only 4 tables for a finance posting. And this massively simplifies the data model. But beyond that, it means also we massively simplify the application code. We need far fewer joins. We don't have to read table entries and update them to provide summary updates. This is an example of massive simplification without losing any functionality. For logistics, we went even further. Huge numbers of tables supporting lots of different logistics documents, header, item level tables, lots of different layers for material master information. So we've basically removed huge numbers of logistics tables and kept very, very few. Again, without losing any data, we have just massively simplified the tables, removing those aggregates, getting rid of the indexes that we do not require. By doing this, it also means that we can create tables that are more tuned to running optimally in HANA. So although the newer remaining tables might be wider with more columns, the basic idea is that with HANA column store and also compression and parallelization, HANA handles these kinds of table shapes particularly well. So we need less tables to get the same job done, which means we're well on the way to the simplification of the data model. But there is also more. We can also massively reduce the data footprint in the new simplified model. First, we just lost a large number of tables. So we immediately remove those tables and also the data that was being stored in those tables. So we see straight away huge benefits when we move to SAP HANA. So the idea then is that we need to now also take a look at other ways to simplify and reduce the data footprint. Now this slide starts off here with a non-HANA database, a traditional database. So a large amount of storage is needed to store the traditional database data. Move to SAP HANA, and the database that's using high compression algorithms will reduce that data footprint immediately. This also means that when you are then moving to S4HANA, we can do more. Because we're now using the more simplified data model, that means removing those tables, removing the aggregates, removing the indexes, we can further reduce the data footprint. There is one more step we could take, and that is to simplify and reduce the data footprint even further. This is done by focusing on only the recent data that we need to use and storing this. You can see from the diagram in red, this would represent the recent data. What we don't want to do is to store unnecessarily historical data that would then mean that we'd have to provide for the data storage for those applications that need to access this data periodically. Now, we're not saying let's remove this older data completely, but let's find a smarter way to access and store this data so it's reachable in real time, but it doesn't have to necessarily be technically stored in the same place as, let's call it the hot data in red. So blue is cool, red is hot. So the idea is that we can even focus further on a reduction of footprint for the data by focusing on recent data or actuals, for example. So there's many different things we can do to reduce the data footprint. And the idea of reduction of data footprint is not just to produce some impressive percentage reduction numbers. Of course, the basic idea is that we're trying to improve the total cost of ownership. Means we can hold more data in the same amount of storage that we've been using. This means we can now firmly reach big data volumes. And the idea is that we should be able to reduce the data footprint, so even huge organizational enterprise data could be stored in some kind of device as small perhaps as a smartphone. Now, can you imagine the idea of the whole of your enterprise data on a single device such as a smartphone or a tablet? S/4HANA delivers a brand new user experience. So we call this Fiori, SAP Fiori, and it's the main interface for S/4HANA, for the business user. Let's look at some of the major aspects of SAP Fiori. So SAP Fiori is SAP's next generation user interface. It's not a single product, but a design approach that's used to create the new interfaces for business users to reach the new S/4HANA applications. SAP have also developed not just new Fiori applications for the new applications interface, but also they have developed Fiori interfaces to reach existing applications. Now, there are a large number of SAP screens that are used today. Over 300,000 individual screens are available in SAP. But rather than create a new Fiori interface for each one of these 300,000 screens, SAP have focused on the most popular, the most commonly used screens in the SAP applications, and have created a new, fresh Fiori interface for a user experience. But also, we have provided tools so customers can Fiorize their existing screens. So as they require, they can turn their existing screens with fresher interfaces that, although not technically on SAP Fiori, would certainly give the same type of user experience in terms of the presentation. Here's an example of how the screens compare with the legacy screen on the left and the Fiori interface on the right. Notice the modern, fresher style of the new Fiori design. But it's not just the appearance that's a big improvement. The actual user experience is also improved. So we no longer refer to UI, but we refer to UX. So with UI, user interface, we now say UX, user experience. An interface should not just look good, but it should also be easy to use and in fact be enjoyable to use, hence experience. We'll look later in a separate lesson at the details of the Fiori design, but for now let's just cover a couple of key points to give some examples. So, as well as allowing users to personalize their own layouts, an SAP Fiori screen would provide the user with helpful guidance. For example, a fuzzy search. So when a user misspells a customer's name, instead of the pop-up message saying nothing found, what we should see is a list of near hits. In other words, a spelling mistake should then bring back approximate hits, which of course the user could say, well, that's what I meant to write. But also it might be that, quite simply, the business user isn't sure of a certain spelling. Again, Stephen, how many ways are there to spell Stephen? And so on. So we've got basically a way to provide guidance for the business user, a simple productivity aid. Also, how about the Fiori application would provide a list of possible next actions in a business process? Rather than just offering huge menus and lots of buttons, let's give the users the next appropriate action. And everything is connected and all relevant in one place. So no closing applications to jump to another one to pick up a piece of data and backwards and forwards. Let's keep everything related to the task in one place. Another key design aspect for SAP Fiori is that the interface should pull together both applications that are transactional and analytical. You see over here on this slide, you'll see that there's a simulation part, and there's some decision support here. In other words, next action. So imagine now you're looking at a list of orders, and then you start to do some analysis, simulation. What would happen if you swapped a quantity from one customer order to another important customer order? And then you have the way to do some simulation. What if we reduced the stock? What if we took on another employee? And then, when you're happy with the decision support, you can make the next action by using the decision support buttons at the bottom. These are ways that the SAP Fiori applications are going to provide a much more guided, proactive, but also simplified experience. So in the past, we developed interfaces, front ends, that were more functionally based rather than people or role based. This meant we focused a lot on the function and provided a single screen, often overcomplicated, that was meant to be used by a lot of different users to perform a large number of different tasks. Let me give an example. If my job is to approve high-value sales orders, all I need is a simple screen showing me only key information and a single button to allow me to approve and maybe a button to reject. But what I have in a legacy application screen is to use the same screen that is used by the same person who creates the sales order, who may create the delivery, update pricing. It gets to be very complex when you're trying to service the needs of a large group of people. So I would have to navigate, in my role as the manager, a complex series of steps to find just the information I need and the setting I need to change in the screen. Lots and lots of clicks just to carry a very, very simple task for me. So the Fiori application and the interfaces focus on the person and in particular the outcome desired with zero clutter. I also would like my next actions to be pushed to me, and I don't want to have to search for buttons, menu options to figure out how to move to the next part. So SAP Fiori is the new S/4HANA user experience. And new and also existing applications can use the new user experience today. SAP deliver already a very large number of applications that use SAP Fiori. These applications can be broken into various families. So we have Fiori applications for transactions, Fiori applications for analytical scenarios, and also Fiori applications for exploration and searching. For example, to investigate a customer credit blockage reason, we need to quickly gather everything we know about the customer in one place and navigate until we find the answers. There are other application types too that are developed with Fiori, but what they all share is a common design approach, and simple is the key design theme. So which Fiori applications are currently available? So SAP have published a list of all available SAP Fiori applications on a public website that's very, very easy to use with searching navigation features. So you can quickly find the application you are looking for by application type, function, and various other criteria as well. Once you open up an application, you can learn far more about it, what can be achieved by using the application, and of course what they look like as well, and also what are the prerequisites to installation implementation. So what kind of impact will S4HANA have on the business processes? Let's take a look at some examples to bring this to life. So S4HANA provides customers with a brand new platform on which continual innovation is possible. And S4HANA can impact all stages of the life cycle towards sustained revenue growth. So some examples here. At the product design phase, with intense business network connectivity, we can collaborate with partners and ensure we bring products and services to market quicker than ever before, whilst ensuring we manage the costs by increasing visibility throughout the full bill of material and at all stages of the product life cycle. S4HANA provides lightning speed processing on huge amounts of complex data, so MRP can be run quickly to allow us to plan faster and make adjustments to those plans in real time. S4HANA provides us with highly customized marketing right down to segments of one. So that means we can also exploit the connectivity to customers to create more visibility of our products and customers. Using predictive insights, we can also anticipate customer issues and minimize them. So we can also simplify the customer connectivity experience to reduce the time to resolve issues. S4HANA allows us to produce financial reports to analyze the results. We can basically run those in real time. No more waiting for an end of a month, end of a period to find out whether we reach deadlines or hit our targets. Let's take a look at specifically 3 scenarios to see how S4HANA simplifies processes. So let's take MRP to begin with. So MRP is the process of materials planning where we analyze a structure of a product, possibly a complex product with multi-levels of with a bill of material to identify all the components. And we identify if we have enough stock on a particular time horizon to meet the known and even unknown demand. And if there's a shortfall, then MRP would suggest that we either procure or manufacture additional components or finished goods and so on. But traditional MRP is very complex and is a very lengthy task. And because of this, it is usually only run periodically, perhaps daily, or might even be weekly. It's very much a batch-driven process. As the process itself takes considerable time, the results are even often out of date as the process begins. So by the time you get the results, the whole situation of supply and demand may have changed. So therefore the results are of less value than you would hope. But also due to the intense processing power required by MRP, we tend to plan in lot sizes. In other words, we group requirements together into big lumps. So let's plan all our juice beverages, let's plan all our water products separately. And then we are grouping at such a high level, we're not focusing down to the individual item level. So everything is washed up together. So this means that we tend to over-plan. We are grouping products. We are therefore procuring additional components that we may not need down at the item level. But with the speed and processing power of S4HANA, MRP can now be run, first of all, in real time. It's no longer a batch process. Now clearly it's still a complex process that runs, but these near real-time MRP runs means that you can run the MRP and then adjust the parameters and then perhaps fine-tune the calculation, then run it again. So we can run the calculation anytime and confidently know that we're reflecting current situation. So it also means that we can plan down to the lowest level of granularity. So where customer orders are very specific, the customer's demanding a particular configuration, we can procure the specific items for that one lot size. So we call this the lot size of one when we're planning right down to a customer order level. No more grouping, no more putting all the orders together in big batches and big lot sizes. So as you look at the diagram here, you can see that all the different steps are in the traditional classical batch mode. There's lots of different individual pieces that need to run, lots of data being passed backwards and forwards the process. But in the real-time MRP that has no aggregates, This means it's a simpler data model, simpler coding, running faster, smaller data footprint, and we can afford to run this over and over again and always in real time. Another example is cost estimation. This can be a very complex process as well, and it basically requires many calculations that traditional hardware and software do find challenging. So traditional applications, including Business Suite, involve a lot of separate steps, and ultimately we identify that the analysis and the evaluation are in separate stages. So this is really an example of how an application isn't really supporting me, and it's me that's doing all the running around and selecting information from different parts of the system. And then when I've found all the pieces that I need, I put all the information together about the product material, the manufacturing information, the master data, and then I do some analysis offline in Excel, for example, to produce my own cost estimate. So lots of cost in terms of time, effort, and also typically not supplying a real-time scenario that a customer would expect. And you can see here, this is the new re-engineered, simpler process. So we've gotten rid of all the necessities to collect manually all these pieces of information, and with a brand new simplified application called the real-time analysis using SAP Product Lifecycle Costing that's powered by SAP HANA, we are massively speeding up the costing for products and services. Customer segmentation is another example of a critical yet often difficult process using traditional applications. So with such a huge amount of data available today about our customers, their behavior, even their relationships and their history, the traditional applications do find it difficult to make use of a lot of this type of data due to, well, unsophisticated applications, but also poor processing power and connectivity to networks, to social networks, etc. So many traditional applications couldn't consume the different types of data that we now have access to. For example, textual, graph data from social networks. And so it's very difficult to build up a picture of how individual customers are behaving. So what we do is we tend to group customers together into very large pots and assume the same behaviors and apply the same marketing and selling actions to those. The segmentation process involves many steps to first source data from various applications, clean the data, harmonize it, to identify a list of important attributes that you want to then mine, define the segmentation basis, so identify how you're going to split up these groups, build profiles of customers, and then create the target groups by reading existing customers to match them against the profiles. And then you have your groups of customers again, you run the campaign. But this is a very slow and complex process, means big segments are often found, and those are typically meaningless, full of noise, including untargeted customers who possibly shouldn't be in that group. And so what we need to do here is to improve massively the segmentation process. So although many of the steps are still required, the ability to select the data, process it, and mine the data is massively speeded up. Using SAP HANA's processing power and its ability to mine all different types of data, apply very complex and powerful algorithms to classify, segment customers. We can quickly create target groups, run campaigns, and then measure and monitor them. So again, another example of a classically difficult and complex processing task, simplified and speeded up with SAP HANA. So, targeted groups of one, a segment of one. This means one customer is your target group with a customized sales campaign. On this slide you see many different examples around manufacturing. that customers have actually experienced since implementing SAP HANA under their SAP applications, producing some pretty dramatic results in terms of optimization, speed improvements, service level improvements, etc. Online there are many examples of SAP case studies where customers have explained how their implementations have massively improved their business. So SAP have developed some very detailed solution maps that present the entire portfolio of all the business solutions from all the industries. And these solution maps have been made available on the public website sap.com/Solution Explorer. And we've developed a brand new, easy-to-use interface where customers and partners can explore the available applications for each industry or by line of business or even by technology as well. So go and visit the sap.com Solution Explorer tool and then start to drill down to see what applications are available. This is an example of a drill down on the industry solution area. And you can see that we've chosen automotive as a particular industry. And then on this map, you can look at the various lines of business around the automotive industry, and on that you can start to drill down even further. So as you've drilled down even further, this one's gone down to the finance line of business. As you would expect, the ability to drill down even on the detail within finance. So you could look at the ledgers, for example, drill down to see what processes are supported. And the final messages here relate to other places for useful information. So when you're discovering S4HANA, a great place to start is sap.com S4HANA, because here you can start at the very high level. There's some very active discussions, frequently asked questions, videos, Q&As, all those things, discussions, blogs on the SCN community page. So please have a look at the SCN community page where S4HANA is being very actively discussed, and SAP specialists are providing information, and you can post your own questions to the experts as well. We also have a web page which is for cross-industry suite on HANA, and again what that does is allows you to discover more information about S4HANA with the ability to have live chats with our experts as well. The S4HANA curriculum is growing at a tremendous pace. Already we have courses covering the overview for S4HANA as you are attending and studying right now, but we also, beyond this course, are able to provide you with application courses. To begin with, we have a curriculum for Simple Finance, so we have the migration course to move to Simple Finance. We also then have application functionality classes looking at cash management, accounting, etc., and so forth. So this is a growing curriculum, but Simple Finance is covered already, as of course we have many other classes, Fiori, we have SAP HANA classes as well, but we'll cover those in a little bit more detail a little bit later. And so we've reached the end of our first lesson, Introduction to SAP S4 HANA. So now you will be able to explain what is SAP S4 HANA, and especially explain why SAP needed to rewrite the whole of the suite for the next generation platform that's built for the digital economy.